What's up, comic book fans, and welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got more Fall of the House of X. This time with the main series Fall of the House of X issue number 3. And y'all, this issue is dope. In fact, this whole main series has been. But this one in particular does not disappoint. And by the end, both Dr. Stasis and one more Orchis member that's been a thorn in the side of the mutants both meet some pretty brutal ends. And we also find out what happens to Firestar after Dr. Stasis's tease in the last issue. And if you need to get caught up with how we got to this point, I'll place a card up top and a link at the end of the video to the Fall of the House of X playlist. But if you guys are ready to see how Dr. Stasis finally bites the bullet, then you already know what time it is. Let's get it. So this issue kicks off with Juggernaut, who, if you remember in the last issue, had rescued the living island of Krakoa from Orchis and was supposed to be getting some help from Rogue and Gambit. But they had other plans of getting the Manifold, who had been hidden away in stasis. So without any assistance, Juggernaut is now on the run with Krakoa, and Orchis is throwing everything they got at him to slow him down, including the adamantium harpoon that pierces through his leg. And then more Orchis soldiers drop down on him from an Orchis repurposed shield helicarrier. And these soldiers come in firing non-stop at Juggernaut. But these bullets do nothing but irritate him. But when the soldiers decide to turn their fire towards Krakoa, Juggernaut begins to go on the offensive. Then we transition to Cyclops, who've been rescued from Omega Sentinel by Dr. Elliot Gregor with an EMP that temporarily disabled Omega Sentinel. But Omega Sentinel won't be out for long, so now these two gotta move quickly. So they run back into the prison that Cyclops had been held in and head down to the lower level. And even though Cyclops can't see right now without his ruby quartz visor, he was able to memorize the steps from his cell. And although he's told by Dr. Gregor that there's no way out from the lower level, Cyclops is persistent. And it's here where Dr. Gregor realizes that Cyclops really could have freed himself at any time. So when she asks him why he never tried, just as a couple of guards approach and Cyclops removes his visor and blasts these guys, he replies to Dr. Gregor that he was waiting for her because she and him have almost everything in common. And then he asks her who is really in control of Orchis. And Dr. Gregor thought that it was both her and Dr. Devo, but what does that matter now? Because we're both trapped, she says. But then a voice tells them that they're never trapped when Magic is around. Remember back in issue 32 of the X-Men, Cyclops had asked for Magic to meet up with him. And good old Magic comes in bearing the gift of Cyclops' ruby quartz visor. So now he's back in business. Then we switch over to the planet Araco, and Apocalypse is rallying the rest of the mutants there. But without the use of the Krakoan gates, the rest of these mutants don't know how they'll get back down to Earth. And just like clockwork, there's a loud boom as Manifold, Rogue, and Gambit arrive with the sword station and round up the troops. And then Manifold teleports them and this station back home. And we can then see the station appear right next to the Sword 2 station, forming a giant X in the sky as the mutants begin their descent to war. Meanwhile, Rogue is reminded of a prophecy from Destiny of a day like this, that so much death and destruction all culminates with a giant X in the heavens, with the fall of the Krakoans, kings clashing in white, black after the death of the Red Queen, a Jovian bolt from the heavens, the stars ripped in half, and the poisoning lies of the false captain, his rank earned. The fool who speaks the truth will pay the price. So then we transition back to Juggernaut and the living island of Krakoa, and they're still under heavy attack. But the tables here turn quickly when the sky now reveals the 2 sword stations and Emma and Kitty and the Thunderbird above them. Then on board the Thunderbird, the ladies get a message from Tony Stark, one that was important enough to interrupt what they've got going on right now. It's a message from Firestar. Remember, we hadn't seen her since Iron Man 14 when she helped Tony Stark set his trap. And then on the message, Firestar says that if you're seeing this recording, I'm probably dead. Dr. Stasis realized that she had been an X-Man all along after she helped set Iron Man's trap for the Sentinels. But she did manage to put a tracker on him. So punch his ticket for me. So Kate, of course, has to change course and go find Dr. Stasis as Stark tells the ladies to bring her home. Or avenge her if you can. Then we're taken out to the middle of nowhere at an empty airfield, as Dr. Stasis was always confident that Orchis would win this thing, but he had a backup plan just in case they didn't. And once he boarded his private plane, Dr. Stasis would cease to exist for a few years, and later metastasize into something worse. But Dr. Stasis's escape plans are cut short when Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde are there to greet him. And Shadowcat wastes no time in going to work as she begins attacking Stasis while telling him that Firestar better be alive or you'll beg for death. As she then phases her hand straight through his head, taking his helmet with it. But Stasis lets her know that if she lays another finger on him, she'll never see Firestar alive again, since she's been hidden away as insurance for this exact scenario. Plus, he has the finest side blocker implanted in his head to block out the telepath. Or does he? As Kate reveals, she phased the side blocker out too when she knocked off his helmet. And now Emma Frost is just the opening that she needs. And now she has Firestar's location and sends Sync to retrieve her. As we then see Sync, who acknowledges that he's close enough to her that he's able to sync with her powers naturally. Then he approaches a large boat with 2 men guarding it that he quickly evicts. And he opens up a chamber revealing an unconscious Firestar, and he removes her oxygen mask and wakes her up. He's got her and notifies Emma that she's heading their way. And now that that business is handled, Emma gets to take the gloves off, so to speak, as she tells Stasis that she's tried to be so good for so long, but they broke her and wouldn't let her play nice. And she's destroyed men worth 10, 100 of Stasis's. She could kill him right now where he grovels, but she won't. Instead, she decides to reach into his mind and pull forth his nightmares, his worst, most unhinged fears about mutants, born of his own voluminous, bigoted mind. But she promises it's gonna feel very real. And as he's now tortured by the feeling of his own fear of getting sliced through like meat by Wolverine, and then his head being blown off by Cyclops, and his heart being phased through by Kitty Pryde, and his head smashed by Colossus and then crushed by Magneto. It only took a minute for Dr. Stasis's heart to begin to arrest. But Emma Frost made sure that last minute felt like 10 years. As she then acknowledges to Kitty that a heart attack is less than what he deserved. Firestar shows up, screaming his name, and unleashes the fires of hell, charring his body. And then Emma thanks her for handling the cleanup. And she lets Firestar know that whatever kind of peace they win in the end will be because she was such a great X-Man. You did us all proud and paid the hero's price. Now let's get back into the fight. There's a crisis on every corner of the globe and beyond. As we then transition to Cyclops and Dr. Gregor as they're teleported to Cyclops' former home on the moon by Magic, who then leaves them behind at the request of Cyclops, as he tells Magic to have Emma to be listening out for him, which she of course agrees to as she heads out to go hunt Director Devo. Then Dr. Gregor asks Cyclops if he's heard the name Sentinel City, and then continues that after Orchis' victory over Krakoa, this habitat of Cyclops' was repurposed into a relay station with their Venusian mining settlement, except almost none of the ore made it back to Earth. It was used on site. But for what? Nobody at Orchis seemed to know, not even Director Devo. But Dr. Gregor suspects that Omega Sentinel knew, and maybe Moira. And so did Nimrod, as she opens the door revealing Nimrod, and Cyclops gives Emma Frost the heads up to be ready, it might go down. As Nimrod then tells Dr. Gregor that it's hard to surprise him, but she's managed to do so 3 times, and he didn't think that he'd ever see her again. But why the secrets? For me of all people, she asks Nimrod. Our mining operation at Sentinel City, almost none of the metal makes it to Earth. What are you building out there? The future and the end. Nimrod tells her. And as Cyclops reminds her that Nimrod is not her husband, she acknowledges that is true. But Nimrod only exists because of her husband's sacrifice. And she knows that he can calculate the truth of that. As Nimrod slowly lifts his hand to the side of her face as if he was going to caress it, and then tells Dr. Gregor that he chooses not to lie to her. And then he straight up breaks her neck, twisting her whole head around, straight like that, and tells her that he's given her this gift earlier than he'd calculated. And now an enraged Cyclops blasts Nimrod with everything he's got, screaming at him that he's a psycho. As Nimrod calmly replies to Cyclops, "We calculated that we'd have the greatest chances of success if mutants and humans were at each other's throats. You would not look up to notice the sword over your head. Sentinel City is not any outpost or mine. It is a tool to sterilize this hellish planet once and for all." As Sentinel City begins to emerge, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the issue. Man. This event is stupid good right now. This war is starting to heat up, and we finally get to start to see this and Rise of Powers of X start to round out together. If you remember in Rise of the Powers of X issue 1, it was the AI that was victorious, and I'll make sure to link that video at the end of this. But damn, y'all, this thing is really coming together and coming to a conclusion, right? How do you guys think this war is gonna end? And how you guys feeling about this issue and this event so far? And did you think that Dr. Stasis got what he deserved? Or do you think it could have been worse? Shout out to the writer, Jerry Dugan, and all the artists for this run. I thought the art has been pretty strong, in particular in this series, right along with the writing. And I'd like to hear what stood out to you guys in this run so far as well. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video and this channel, and you'd like to support the channel, then you could do so by joining the Iconic Fan Club channel membership. And I'll make sure to put a link in the description to join. But with your membership, you'll gain access to weekly interactive live streams with yours truly, right in front of the camera, where we could talk about everything that's been going down in these issues, as well as others that you'd like for me to go over in the future and other comic book news. Plus, you guys will get loyalty badges, member shoutouts, and more in these videos. Or you guys can donate to the channel with a super thanks. And if you're not able to do any of these, then you can still be a huge help to the channel by dropping a like, share, and subscribe in the Comics Icons for more icons in the comic book world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm out. Peace.